Hey friends, Barkey Dog here, back with another Barkcast. That's right. This isn't one of my usual videos where I'm reviewing movies and stuff. No, this is more podcasty, something you have on sort of in the background while you're busy doing something else. Probably not on date night though. This'd kill the mood real fast. I've been away. That's why I didn't have a video for about a week and a half there. I was on a big old road trip. I'll tell you all about it. But I'm here. It's kind of a rainy day again today, and had a little extra time, so I figured I'd make a Barkcast for you. Got my coffee here and everything. Let's see. What are we going to talk about? Hey, while I was on my trip there, I found we've actually cracked 100 subscribers, our channel, yours and mine. We're up to, I think, 104. 104 subscribers now. Wow. Of course, that's just on paper. Because one of those 104 is me, so I don't count that. And then 3 or 4 are people I know, and I kind of don't count them. And, no doubt there's some spam bots in there and spammers, and I'm sure there's a few of them out of that 100 or so. And then most of them are probably what's called legacy subscribers. So these are people who came, they saw a video, they subscribed to your channel, and then maybe watch a video or two, but then they drift away and they never come back and they don't watch a lot of videos or anything. And we all do that. I know there's channels I've subscribed to that I watched pretty regular and now kind of don't watch much of their stuff anymore, just for whatever reason. And I think we only really have maybe 20 or 25 active viewers on our channel here. But that's okay, on paper anyway. It says 104. I'll take what I can get. I'll take whatever I can get. So there we go. That's pretty cool. Let's see what's coming up here. Howl-o-ween is coming up. We're going to have Howl-o-ween again this year. And this year, I don't know. Last year I covered all the main monsters, the big monsters. You got your Frankenstein, your Dracula, your Wolfman, your Mummy, and the Headless Horseman. All the monsters you think of at Halloween. I didn't do the GILL Man. That's the creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't know. I'm not that big a fan of the GILL Man. I mean, those movies are okay, but they were made in the 50s, and the other monsters, their movies all started in the 30s and 40s. And the GILL Man, those movies are kind of cheap looking, and I don't know. He's considered one of the main Universal monsters, but it's almost like he's been tacked on to the pantheon of monsters. And he's not really a Halloween monster, is he? Like Dracula or something. So I probably won't do the GILL Man. I mean, he might be alright for a creature double feature if I do more of those videos. I might throw the GILL Man in there, but not for Howl-o-ween. The only other one I can think of that I didn't cover would be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because he's sort of a spooky guy, but again, he's not really a Halloween guy, necessarily. I don't know, might touch on it. We'll see. I still have to solidify some plans, and time's running out, so I gotta hurry up and think about it. I probably won't do as much decorating as I did last time, just because I've rearranged the set a little bit, and it's shot from a different angle, and I don't want to have to take everything apart to put it back together and all that stuff. But I'll definitely put some decorations up there. I'm going to do something. I'll come up with something. And we'll have Howl-o-ween. Now, some folks have been requesting I do more horror pictures. And I think Howl-o-ween's a good time for that. I have a couple in mind that I really like, and I'll be doing those. I don't generally do slasher pictures, because it's not my cup of Ovaltine, really. I don't really care for blood and guts and gore and all that stuff. But yeah, I've got some horror movies I got in mind. I'm not a big fan of stuff like Saw or The Grudge or any of that any of that stuff. Just not my personal cup of Ovaltine. But I will have some horror stuff. I got some horror stuff for you coming up. And that's going to be Howl-o-ween. Boy, what am I going to do? Yeah, I'm going to have to come up with something for Howl-o-ween. Howl-o-ween. Oh. So anyway, I've been on this big trip. Let me tell you about this. My orbit is fairly small. I go to work, and I might go to a grocery store or the hardware store, something like that. I used to be able to go to the theater, stuff like that, and then home again. And that's pretty much my orbit. It's usually within 20 miles. I don't travel too far. But I had to go on this big, long road trip. Ugh. That's where I was. I was on the road, and I decided I would drive this trip because I was going up to visit my folks, and they live, I don't know, 1,200, 1,300 miles away from me, so I don't get to see them very often. Talk well on the phone, but I don't get to see them too often. And my dad, he's just gone into a nursing home, and unfortunately, he's been flirting with dementia. So, but he's 85, he's up there, and my mom is 81. So I got to thinking, Dad just went in this nursing home less than a year ago. I better go see him while I can. This might be the last chance I have. He's doing all right. But he is 85, and all of that stuff's got some health problems. He's not fading away or anything, but if I got a call tomorrow with the bad news, it wouldn't be a shock, because you can kind of see the writing on the wall there, but it's not like a sudden thing. Somebody had a heart attack or something. You kind of mentally prepare yourself a bit, So I figured I should go see him. And I did get to see him. Unfortunately, not very long. He doesn't have a lot of energy for conversations, because he can't focus too well. So I talked with him on the phone, and he told me a story that I know is partly true when he was a young fella. But then half of it is not true, which I also know. But he didn't know the difference, and he told me the story, and then he told me the story again, and then he told it to me a third time, and he just kept going back to this story to tell me the story again, like 5 times. But I did get to see him only about 15 minutes though, because it's a little hard for him to concentrate on a conversation. But he's doing all right. Mostly what he does, he just watches movies in their day room there, their community room, spends time in there watching movies. When I was there, the movie that was on was Top Gun. And I don't know, for some reason I had this idea that they would only show like older movies or G-rated movies or stuff like that. Or maybe they had edited versions of these movies to show the old folks that don't have all the cursing and sex and stuff in them, but no. They were just showing Top Gun with all the F this and S that and all that. So I don't know why we think that about older people, like they don't curse or they don't, like sex wasn't something invented until we came along. I don't know. I brought him some DVDs. I brought him some, it's like a 2-set thing of Randolph Scott videos. It's there's a volume 1 and a volume 2 of Randolph Scott, and they're not very expensive, but I bought them for myself. And there's some really good Randolph Scott pictures that he made in the 50s, and they're quite good. But he doesn't have his own DVD player, I guess. But, they could watch him on the big screen if they want to see him. Yeah, so that's where I was. I usually, when I go to visit my folks, I try to go a little bit later in September or the first week of October, because that's when the foliage is at its peak, and at least you can look at that and it's pretty. They live in a fairly rural part of the country. There's lots of little towns around, but there's not a lot of people, and that means there's not much to do. So, seeing the pretty trees, at least, you take some photos and things and spend some time with that. Because there's really nothing to do. One year I made a mistake and I took 2 weeks off of work to go up there. I flew up there and where they live, and after about a week, you're all caught up on everything, and there's nothing else to talk about, and there's nowhere to go and nothing to do, and you're just ready to get the hell out of there. Oh boy, you want to go. But I had to wait for the plane, didn't I? So I had to spend about a week bored out of my gourd, just waiting to go home again. But the last time I went, I drove, and this time I drove. Looking at the numbers, even with gas and a motel for the night halfway through, because it's like a 20-hour trip, it was still cheaper than a plane ticket. And then I might have to rent a vehicle to run around in, and that's more money. So it seemed smarter just to drive. So that's what I did. And went way outside my orbit to drive there. Like I say, it's about 18, 19 hours on the road. So the first leg of my journey, I did about 11 or 12 hours. And that includes stops, obviously. But, you got to stop, get coffee. You got to stop, use the restroom after you got the coffee, and that kind of thing. And I had already determined where I was going to stop for the night. So I went all that way. And then all I'd had all day were like snacks and coffee, because I didn't want to have a big meal that would make me sleepy on the road, So I had to go to a restaurant. And I was not looking forward to this trip with the COVICOOTIEs. Same for being in a plane. I was like, I don't like that idea. I was by myself, so I didn't have anyone in the car, but just boring drive. And exhausting, and I had to get some food, so I had to go to a restaurant, and there was a proper one not far away, kind of a bar restaurant type place from this motel I stayed at. And the staff were great. They all had masks and they were wiping stuff down, but the place was packed. I had to stand around waiting for some place to sit, and the place was just packed to the gills. And of course, people are eating and drinking stuff, don't have masks on, all that. And every time you stop somewhere to get a coffee or something, you run the risk of the COVICOOTIEs. I've had my shots, so have my parents, but like I say, they're in their 80s. And even if they caught the thing with their shots and everything, it could still be pretty rough on them. And I didn't want to give them that stuff, or be a COVICOOTIE Mary, and pass it on to anybody. But every time you stop, there's people around, no masks on, being dumbasses. And even when you get stuff, they hand you a cup of coffee, so they've been handling credit cards, they've been handling stuff, they've been handling all this stuff. And who knows if they pick the stuff up or not or what, and you got to worry about it, because again, my folks are getting up there. And one place I stopped, there's a McDonald's in these plazas on the turnpike. You stop at them, and you see in the back there people making the food, no masks on. So you're like, you kind of feel like you're playing Russian roulette. You never know. And some people behind the counters didn't have masks on, and it's like, oh jeez. But you kind of have to muddle through, and I don't know, there and back. The second leg of the journey was about 7.5 to 8 hours to get up where my folks live there. So about 18, 19 hours on the road. That's a long haul. And then I did the reverse on the way back. I stopped again in the same town on the way back, and then did the 11-hour, 12-hour jaunt the next day. And of course, you're not sleeping well because, you're in a motel or whatever. And I was staying with my mom, and I had to sleep on the couch there. This couch, this couch they have is old. It's not ratty or anything like that. It doesn't get a lot of use. It never did. But they must have bought this in the early 90s. The upholstery on this thing is like yarn. It's like woven yarn. And it's beige and brown and tan and orange yarn looking stuff that's all been woven together. You know how that is? And you sit down on this thing. It sits low to the ground already, and you sit down on this thing and you just sink all the way down when you sit because there's no support there. And the pillows there on the back, they're just polyfill, so they have no support, right? And so it's no good for sitting on. And as for laying down on, it offers you no back support whatsoever. So mentally I was nicknaming this thing the rack because it would hurt my back every morning. I'd get up, ow, and you had to, it's time for bed. I'm going to be put on the rack. So you're not sleeping good there. And all that lowers your resistance to things like colds and flu and COVICOOTIEs and all that stuff. So I gotta tell you, if I haven't caught a COVICOOTIE after this trip, I don't think I ever will. I got home and I was just knackered. So it's taken me a couple of days to try and recover. I was gonna make you that video for the best defense before I left, so you'd have something. But I just didn't have the time to get to it. I had all this running around and preparation to do, get the car ready, all this stuff. So I didn't have a chance to do it until I got home. And I don't know. After all that driving, you feel like you got a little cough, or maybe you feel like your throat's coated, or you got little aches and pains, and then you're worried, oh my God, do I have COVICOOTIEs coming on? I sure hope not. I don't have a fever or anything like that. So I think it's just as really tired, maybe a little dehydrated, you know how that is. So hopefully I don't become a COVICOOTIE Mary. But I got to see one of my oldest friends, my best friend. I got to see him. He came up from further downstate while I was there, so it was nice to see him. I didn't get to see one of my other friends. She was really busy working and doing other stuff, so I didn't get to see her. But it was nice to see my friend. And there were a few things open we could go visit. Not much. We went to the local mall, and the place was just dead. Oh, that place used to have a lot of stores in it, and it's a nice mall. It really is. It's kind of modern. It was built in the 90s, I think. So it's not, mid to late 90s. So it's not really run down and crappy. It looks nice. There's just no stores in it. Yeah, they just can't keep people in there. But it's so expensive. When I go into a shopping mall, there's always this one store that boggles my mind. How in God's name do they meet payroll every month? And you know the ones I mean, I bet. It's these sort of... it's these stores that have artsy craftsy stuff, not art supplies, but artsy craftsy things like, they have signs like God bless this house, and, a lot of things like that, and they always have these wicker baskets. You know the stores I mean, And they always have way overpriced kitchen stuff like, stoneware, bean pots and plates and things that are vastly overpriced. And it's the wicker baskets and the wicker furniture are the things that get me the most. I don't know how they stay in business. Sometimes they have candles in there, and you know the stuff. It's just packed to the gills with all this sort of artsy craftsy junk. And I don't know how in God's name they're able to stay in a mall, which is pretty pricey rent-wise. I don't know how they meet payroll, but they're always in these malls. Well, this one didn't have it anymore. They used to have one, but it's long gone. Weird. Yeah. Well, one other thing I wanted to mention on this road trip. Now, usually on a road trip you have music, right? And I did have some with me. And I started out on the road there, and I listened to an album and then another album, and then I threw something else on. I have some USB sticks I can plug into the car. And so I had a couple of thumb drives with old radio shows. Gunsmoke and The Great Gildersleeve and all that. And one of them that I had, and it turns out I listened to this all the rest of the way there and all the rest of the way back, was this old radio show. And it's from 1960-61, and this is the very end of the radio era. It's like the dying gasp of old radio. This was a CBS radio show that had Bing Crosby and Rosemary Clooney, and also had my favorite pitchman, my favorite announcer of all of old radio, Ken Carpenter. Oh, what a voice, what a delivery. So smooth, there's always a smile in his voice. Oh, love Ken Carpenter. And he had worked with Bing Crosby a lot on Kraft Music Hall and other shows, so he was friends with Bing, and they have some banter. And Rosemary Clooney starred with Bing in White Christmas, and they recorded some albums together, so they were friends. And you hear this banter between them, and some, it's all scripted, but sometimes, they just start laughing and sort of ad-libbing a little bit, and it's a joy to listen to. It really is. And Bing will sing some songs, and Rosemary would sing some songs, and they'd do a duet together. And these episodes are only like, 20 minutes a piece, but there's hundreds of them. Right? And Ken Carpenter would do some commercials like he used to do. He was the announcer on Great Gildersleeve. He was the announcer on Fibber McGee and Molly. And just a joy to listen to. He used to do a lot of craft products because they sponsored those shows. And here he's doing Sara Lee cakes and GE light bulbs and all that stuff, and it's just wonderful to listen to. And then Buddy Cole was the band leader there. He had a small combo going. He was an organist and a keyboardist, played piano, lots of things, and he does a solo, an instrumental, during this program. And there's tons of this stuff. Like I say, there's a couple hundred episodes of this thing. So I had lots and lots to listen to. And, it's fun to listen to, and the songs are great, and they got a nice mix of the songs. As the show goes on, they do have a lot of repetition because they're just recycling the stuff. And so there's a lot of repetition here. They would add to the songs. And then as the show goes on over time, they would recycle some of the banter and some of the commercials and the songs. But it's not so much that it gets tedious. They shuffle it up enough that it doesn't get to be boring or anything. So I was listening to all this and having a lot of fun with it. And that was my constant companion, was Bing and Rosemary and Ken Carpenter on this trip. So I would recommend old radio. Some people listen to podcasts, and that's fine if you got a lot of them to listen to, or music or something. But I found this was great because they have the singing, and they have some banter, and they have the old commercials, and it's a lot of fun. You can find this on archive.org. I'll try to remember to link to it. And they're great for a long road trip if you like Bing and Rosemary and the type of music they have. But that's what I was listening to. Yeah. Well, I guess that's about it. I prattled on long enough on this thing. Guess maybe I'll just take a cue from Bing Crosby and sing you a little song here. Sherry, how I recall the night when you danced for me in a cafe on the road to Calais. Sherry, were you just fooling me when you said wee wee? In a cafe on the road to Calais. You promised me that you'd be true the day we said adieu. Was I the only one you gave your precious kisses to? Sherry, will I return to find just a memory? In a cafe on the road to Calais. Well, you've heard of the GI romance, right? That's more from the 40s or 50s, the GI romance. The soldier meets a chick, and because of the situation there, he's lonely and he falls in love or thinks he's in love with some local chick somewhere. This is more of a doughboy romance. This is from 1931. in a cafe on the road to Calais. Yeah, so more World War I era GI romance, doughboy romance. Well, hey friends, I tell you what, you take care of yourselves, and I'll be back with some more videos and other stuff for you soon, and Howl-o-ween's coming on, so stay tuned for that. And I'll see you in the next one.